shit! It's Spider-Man!
Some of you might not know this, but this shouldn't come as a surprise, I'm sure, but I love the Uncharted games. Uncharted 4 is in my top 10 video games of all time, and I knew there would be a day where this beloved franchise would get an adaptation on the big screen. Now that the day has come, I walked into the theater excited, but kept my expectations in check, and I walked out of the theater thoroughly enjoyed by what I saw. I really liked this movie. And before we get into the meat and potatoes of this review, I want to clarify a few things that have been kind of bothering me regarding this film. See, ever since the casting announcement, to the first look, to the first trailer, I feel like a lot of people have been taking this film way too seriously and shitting on it for dumb reasons. A lot of people are saying it doesn't take any risks, or the casting is bad and Tom Holland looks too young, or they took all 4 Uncharted games and combined them into one movie, when really, it's just a fun action-adventure movie that takes inspiration from the video games. In my opinion, one of the most important things you should do when watching a movie like this is remember that this is just a non-canon adaptation of the games, because comparing it to the source material is automatically going to make it look worse. Hell, most of the people I've talked to about this film didn't even know it was based off of a video game, so maybe we should lay off the extreme criticisms, because if anything, there will be more people willing to experience the games after watching this movie. Okay, that's out of the way, now let's talk about the movie. Nathan Drake is a charming, street-smart 25-year-old who bartends and pickpockets for a living. He's recruited by seasoned treasure hunter Victor Sully Sullivan to embark on a dangerous quest to find a fortune lost 500 years ago, while also fending off Santiago Moncada, played by Antonio Banderas, who believes he and his family are the rightful heirs to the treasure. To start it off, one of the things I was initially worried about was Tom Holland as a younger, less experienced Nathan Drake. I was afraid I would look at the screen and see Spider-Man playing dress up, but since the first trailer, I've been on board defending him as this character. And since seeing the movie, I really liked Tom Holland as this version of Nathan Drake. He's charming, he's charismatic, he's a complete wise ass with a ton of great lines, and serves as this good-natured character who has a lot to learn about being a treasure hunter. He's very naive in a way, both in who he places his trust in and how he operates. I also noticed he did a lot of his own stunts in the movie as well, which is something I knew he did anyways, but it was cool to see him actually do it when he isn't forced to wear the Spider-Man mask, and I was impressed. Up next we have Mark Wahlberg as Sully, and I'm sorry, I just can't see it. All I see is Mark Wahlberg being an asshole on screen, and I really hate to say that because I don't have anything against the actor. It's just really distracting. He has great chemistry with Tom Holland as they're in the beginning of forming this mentor-student role, but the way he portrays this character made him very unlikable for the most part. He spends most of the film in this, I'm not in it for myself and I'm gonna backstab any chance I get kind of role. And even when it's played off as a joke, it still doesn't feel quite right, especially since this is how he acts for a majority of the movie. Sophia Ali as Chloe Fraser did a good job capturing a character who rides the line between being a great partner and someone who's looking out for number one. She also had great chemistry with Tom and Mark, and her performance was really entertaining to watch. Antonio Banderas was also really great in this film as the villain, and I feel like he captured the essence of what an Uncharted villain would be. He's menacing and threatening, not in a physical sense, but rather by sheer determination to do whatever it takes to get what he wants. Same thing goes to Tati Gabrielle as Braddock. Also, fun fact, I was actually named after Antonio Banderas, so I may have a little bit of a personal bias in this one. I will say, however, the standout for me was Stephen Waddington as the Scotsman. He felt like the perfect boss character, and I couldn't help but get excited whenever I saw him on screen. Now, as far as the action is concerned, while it was very entertaining and well choreographed during the parkour chase scenes, the fight scenes, and over-the-top set pieces, it felt like there was a lack of fatality that's normally associated with the Uncharted series. Nathan uncharacteristically doesn't kill anyone in this movie, at least intentionally. And actually, neither does Sully now that I think about it. And I don't know if it's because Tom Holland is the poster child of Sony, but it felt very unnatural that he didn't go in guns blazing in certain sections. The Uncharted games are rated T, so I don't really understand the decision behind that, but it felt very noticeable. And obviously, it wouldn't be Uncharted without the over-the-top set pieces, and while I enjoyed all of them, the best one is clearly the plane scene that was inspired from that segment in Uncharted 3. I'm not gonna knock it down a peg like other people are because it was taken from the video game, because it was awesome in the movie and it had me on the edge of my seat, just like it was in the video game. There are moments where it seems very unrealistic how Nathan is able to survive in these situations, so you'll need to suspend your disbelief in these segments when compared to the rest of the film. But they were still very entertaining and fun to watch. I was never really into the treasure hunting aspect of most of these films, but from what I've seen, there aren't that many surprises when it comes to finding a key that leads to another piece, which leads to a secret passageway with booby traps, which leads to a map, which leads to this, which leads to that. And I feel like while that seems very formulaic when compared to movies like Indiana Jones or National Treasure, it's still done in a very skillful way that doesn't take away from the experience. So basically, if you've seen those other movies, you've seen Uncharted. Now, I know I said I wouldn't compare this film to the source material, but one of the things I wish they did was adapt the more explorative elements that the games are known for, especially when it comes to climbing and traversing in the massive wide open forest and temple areas. There's a little bit of exploration in the cities, but I wish they had more time in nature, since that's also where a majority of the games take place. And of course, with this being a video game adaptation, there are a ton of Easter eggs. And these Easter eggs had me smiling from ear to ear every time I caught one. Two moments in particular stand out to me, and I couldn't help but think back to how much I enjoyed playing the series. Overall, I had a great time with Uncharted, and while this film didn't blow me away, I felt thoroughly entertained, and it's definitely one of the better video game adaptations. While I'm not necessarily expecting them to make a sequel to this film, it leaves it open-ended to that possibility, and I honestly wouldn't mind seeing more. So, I'm gonna give Uncharted a final score of a 7 out of 10.